You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. As I said, I was going to be doing daily episodes throughout the 49ers playoffs. This is day 2. It is Tuesday, January 10th, and today I'm joined by Ted what's your channel called, Ted?
Ted Talks Ball.
Ted Talks Ball. And look, he's in his car today. He's committed to the content because, it's been raining cats and dogs in the Bay Area. So he's the victim of a blackout. So he's joining us from his car, but we'll take it. All right, we'll take it. How are you doing today, Ted?
Good. I mean, better now to be talking with you, Steph. Yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night, about 3 a.m. with no power. Futzed around a little bit trying to, get things ready, and then fell back asleep, and luckily woke up in time for this and just popped out to the car, and luckily seems like at least a good enough reception for us to do it this way. So yeah, really excited to chop it up with you again. Was really happy when you came on Ted Talks Ball, and now happy to be on 49 Carats for my first time, and thanks for having me on. It's a real honor, and I can't wait to chat with you some here.
Yeah, of course. Glad you can make it. And shout out to everyone who is watching early in the morning. It's about 8 in the morning for the Bay Area folks. So what's up, Tech 49er, with us in the comments. Look, we're going to look back at the 49ers season, and we're also going to look ahead. But first, let's start back on reflecting on this crazy regular season that it was. I mean, the 49ers started this season with a lot of high expectations. Then they started 3-4. So at that time, my expectations kind of shifted. I don't know about you, Ted, but when the team was 3-4, I was just happy if they made it to the playoffs at all. And now look at them on this 10-win streak. And hey, it looks like they can go all the way, right? So what do you make of this season and how the 49ers have been able to turn it around?
Yeah, I mean, before the season, I predicted 11-5 for our 11-6 for our finishing record. As we got more injured and our record got worse and worse, down to 3-4. Yeah, at that point, I was more like 10-7. Or maybe even 9-8 was what I was thinking. And then obviously we got Christian McCaffrey, and very quickly I went back to sort of like 11-6, or even maybe 12-5. Eventually was I think the highest I ever thought. I never really thought we'd get 13-4 until basically, I guess, till we beat the Commanders. Then I was like, wow, we could really do this. So.
Yeah, I mean, the way they've been able to turn it around, I got to give some credit to Kyle Shanahan, who I think should be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I've said it before, I'm not going to riot if he doesn't win it, but I just want him to be in the conversation at least. I think he deserves that much. I mean, yeah, he has a stacked roster, but being able to do what he's done with 3 different quarterbacks at the helm and still continue to win, have Brock Purdy looking like this. I mean, I think that deserves some praise, or at least just some discussion, right?
Absolutely. I mean, who is going to win this many games with their backup quarterback, let alone the backup to the backup? Not only that, but I mean, now that we have Brock Purdy, we're really starting to see what the Kyle Shanahan system, Brock plus, I've been saying for quite some time since we got Christian McCaffrey that I thought we had the best group of weapons in the NFL. Maybe not the best at every single position, or maybe not even the best at any one position. Although I think Kittle now is starting to show that he's the best tight end in the NFL the last few weeks. But now we can finally see what the system can do. I mean, I think we're averaging something like 31 or 32, maybe even 33 points a game. Other than the 21-point game in Seattle, I think every game's been 35 points or more. Just super impressive. What we always kind of hoped we would see from the system, a little bit more like what we saw from Kyle in 2016 in Atlanta with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and company down there. Yeah, do I think he's deserving of Coach of the Year? Absolutely. Do I think he'll get it? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. They always seem to give it to someone who I didn't think was really that deserving, but maybe they'll prove us wrong this year. Hopefully, I mean, prove us right, and actually prove us wrong when we say he won't get it, but prove us right when we say that he deserves it. It's kind of a weird conversation there.
Yeah, I feel like there are some names out there like Nick Sirianni. Like if he won it, I think Kyle Shanahan is just as deserving if they're in the same conversation of, well, they had stacked rosters. I think Brian DeBull, could possibly get the nod there, and I think he would be deserving because the Giants, you're doing less with more, right? And that's always a question. Do does Coach of the Year, is that someone who does less with more, or is that someone who has a stacked roster and is doing about as you would expect? So Brian DeBull, I mean, I like Dan Campbell as well. Those are some guys I wouldn't mind winning. So yeah, it's a fun conversation to have, but I think at least Kyle should be in that conversation. But let's circle back to Brock Purdy really quick. We got Tech 49er in the comments who says, just want to say Brock is great, but he needs to get rid of the ball on some of these pressures earlier. Now, this was something I noticed in the Cardinals game and actually in the last couple of games. And if you go to my Twitter, Steph49K, you'll see one of my most recent tweets. I compiled a clip with all 22 of some of the plays that, Brock Purdy kind of struggled with early because the Cardinals were giving him pressure. He was flushed out of the pocket a few times. As Tech 49er says here, he took 2 bad sacks. I don't know if those were bad sacks. I mean, I think the Cardinals at the time were doing a great job of getting some pressure. And of course, JJ Watt playing his final game, he had to show out. So I think a lot of that had to do with him alone. But I did see in that first bit that he was a little, I don't want to say rattled. I think that's too strong of a word, but I think he was limited. And so in his first drive, he was 3 for 3. They got a touchdown. But after that, the Cardinals got some pressure. He was 2 of 6. He missed Ayuk wide open, the one that Ayuk had to dive for. He missed Jennings wide open, which is uncharacteristic for Purdy. He was sacked. And JJ Watt even tipped one of his passes. The offense went 4 consecutive punts after that first opening touchdown drive for the 49ers. And so it looked like the pressure was kind of getting to him. What I want to point out, though, is that Brock Purdy has shown an ability to brush that off and be kind of resilient. After that point in the game, after those 4 consecutive punts, he went 10 of 11, 103 yards, and 5 straight scoring drives. I think there were 4 touchdowns and 1 field goal. And so to me, that's maybe the most impressive thing that he's been showing lately, the ability to make in-game adjustments and, finish strong. I don't know if you've seen that in these last couple games, Ted.
Yeah, no, I've seen it all along. We saw it against the Commanders. We scored a lot late in that game. Obviously, a lot in the Raiders game in between. Maybe the one where we didn't score a ton at the end was the Seahawks. But all the rest, I would say, and he obviously didn't score a lot at the end against the Bucks because he scored 35 and 3/4. So God bless him, he was already out of the game there. But Purdy, both coaches, Kyle and D'Amico, make great halftime adjustments. We come out firing in the second half quite often, and it's really great to see. Brock Purdy he's a revelation. I've gotten into some arguments in the timeline about saying I do want to see him versus a top D that isn't injured because the Bucks were very heavily injured, and even the Commanders were missing Cam Curl, who's their second leading tackler, their strong safety, and Benjamin St. Juste, their one of their starting corners, went down early in the game with a sprained ankle. And I do think also that game against the Commanders was pretty close for a while, and then Riverboat Ron kind of took over and handed us a bunch. Jack Hammer had a great tweet where he said basically the last 4 Niners drives all started within their 35-yard line due to going forward on 4th and 1 on their own 34, a turnover,
Yeah.
a special teams gaff, and the onside kick that we recovered. And so that made their defense look a lot worse than it was. Anyway, bottom line is I'm really, really happy with Brock. I mean, people get confused because I will be sometimes critical or say that I'm not sure, I haven't seen enough. And it's not saying I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying I need to see more. And especially in a playoff atmosphere, it's always different than regular season. But how could you not love what we've seen so far? Obviously, it's 7th-round pick, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft, 3rd-round QB comes in cold. And people say 5-0 because it was 5 starts, but I say 6-0 because I give him credit for that Dolphins game too.
I mean, he came into the game fairly early, so
Yeah,
while
was
it
still
wasn't
first quarter,
technically a
wasn't it?
start, it was pretty much almost the entire game. So yeah, I gave him a lot of credit for that one too. Now, Ty here in the comments says, is it uncharacteristic or just characteristic? Talking about Brock Purdy missing open guys. He said we've seen him miss open guys ever since Miami. I've seen him more in the last couple of games, I think. But it's not something I hold him to. I don't hold it too much against him. I think there's a lot that he's learning on the fly, and he seems to be the kind of quarterback who has high standards for himself. So I know if he does miss open guys, he sees it, and he's probably hard on himself for that. As we saw, like I think it was one of the first games that he started when he missed Ayuk, and he apologized to Ayuk for missing him. So I think it's something that will get better with time. I will say that I think we've seen his ceiling. I think we have, which is okay. The ceiling, you can work with that, what we've seen. And as far as his floor, it's unclear what that is at this moment. But what we have seen from these last few games, I think his floor is pretty high, all things considered, at least for now. The floor can move, right? It could potentially move as he gets more playing time, but as of right now, I'm liking what I'm seeing. And of course, if they play better defenses, which they will in the playoffs, we might be able to see another side of Brock Purdy. Who knows? But I can say that from what we've seen from him so far, the good things, those should be able to take this 49ers team pretty far in the playoffs, I would say. And I'm with you, Ted. I think it's too early to make any proclamations as to what Brock Purdy is going to be. We just don't know. And things can change over time as well. He can start to look different. Either way, maybe he could look better. Maybe he can look worse. We just don't know. So I'm just enjoying the ride. I'm enjoying the fact that we can be down to our 3rd-string quarterback and still be in the hunt, still be a favorite for, deep playoff run, for a potential Super Bowl here. So that's something I never imagined when Jimmy Garoppolo went down. So I am very glad with what we have here at the moment.
Me too. I mean, I just love Brock's, his mobility. I love his decision making, his footwork, his pocket presence, and his accuracy. Those things are all really top notch with him. My only knocks about against Brock are really just height. That 6'1.5". It's a little bit shorter than you'd prefer for your ideal quarterback, and arm strength. Not that he can't throw deep. He has thrown some nice deep balls, but there's like those kind of deep outs. There's those kind of rifling a ball in, into a tight window where you need a little more arm strength sometimes. And then also, like, say you're playing in windy, rainy conditions, which I don't know, maybe that might be this Saturday. If it's like today, it's windy as hell right now and raining like crazy. So in those type of less than ideal situations, that's where also, better defenses are going to tend to apply more pressure, which makes it harder to use the right footwork, which makes it harder to use the right mechanics, which makes it more difficult if you have less arm strength. So I mean, I absolutely love what we've seen. But I do see areas where it could be we could see that floor drop a little, or the ceiling. And I do kind of agree with you. I think we've kind of seen his ceiling, at least.
Oh no. Oh no. Well, okay. Ted just went out on our feed right now. He is. Oh, there you are, Ted.
Yeah, sorry, I had a call come in.
Okay. Yeah, as a reminder, Ted is streaming from his car right now, which we appreciate him being on. But his screen might go black once in a while. Glad you're back, Ted. What were you saying?
I was just saying that that I really love Brock Purdy. There's some limitations that I see. I do think we've sort of seen his ceiling of what we can expect from him. Realistically, there will be incremental gains that he'll get by but more I think will come in the off season. I think for this season we've seen what we're going to get out of him. Every game has been very similar from him, and like you said, I think it's enough. I mean, I said that I thought we could win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G if everything was really close to perfect. If we were
Yeah,
really healthy
agree.
and things, a few things went our way, that kind of thing. And I feel like the same way with Brock Purdy, but just more confident with Brock Purdy. He scored more. I think Jimmy G scored in the high 20s, like 28 or 29 points a game since we got Christian McCaffrey, and Purdy's more like 31, 32. So, and just the way he's played, I just am not as stressed out when I watch games when Brock Purdy's our quarterback. I just have so much more confidence in him
I
to do the right things.
I have thought and said the same exact thing, and it's crazy because Jimmy Garoppolo was having a good season by his standards, right? He was playing some good football, maybe the best football we've seen him play as a 49er. And I credit Brian Greasy for a lot of that. But anytime you watch Jimmy Garoppolo, okay, this isn't a knock on him, but for some reason I'm always nervous when I watch Jimmy, because I just know what he's capable of, good and bad, right? So I'm always kind of like clenching my butt cheeks a little bit because I'm just like worried that he might make a mistake. Because that has been the Jimmy Garoppolo experience for us, right? It's been a roller coaster. He'll have really good stretches and then it'll kind of just all fall apart. So I was always nervous watching Jimmy Garoppolo play quarterback. As soon as Brock Purdy went in and he started doing what he was doing, I was like, oh, okay. And I felt confident. I felt comfortable watching him. I still feel comfortable watching him because I don't know if it's the confidence that he has in himself that is kind of just like spilling over to us watching, or if it's just the fact that I've seen him do what he's done these past few games, and I have a lot of faith in him and trust in him. He hasn't steered us wrong yet. Even when he's thrown the interceptions, I say to myself, okay, well, I know he's going to be able to, bounce back from this. So I don't know. I'm with you there. I thought I was maybe one of the only people that felt that way, but I totally see it. But let's talk about next season. I know it's early, right? I hate to have this conversation now because so much can change between then and now, or now and then. But it's going to be a conversation eventually. Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. That is most definitely probably going to be the competition next year. We had so much talk about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance this past season, these last two seasons actually, and now it's going to shift to Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. And it sucks because Trey Lance, he hasn't really gotten the opportunity, I think, to show what he can be. And even in college, I feel like his time was limited, right? He only played one full season as a starter. And so he's very raw. And so he's going up against guys who have so much more experience than him. And it kind of feels like an unfair competition in a way. But it's just the nature of the NFL, right? I mean, you got to go with the best option. And so, going into next season, Brock Purdy, with this extra experience, with all the experience that he had in college, he's now going to have playoff experience, and who knows how far he's going to go. There's a possibility he can go very far. And of course, the 49ers going to have to take that into account when thinking about the competition next season. So how do you see that playing out? I can't imagine the 49ers don't give Trey Lance the opportunity to show himself, or prove himself, I should say. And Ted, once again, his scream at black. But did you hear the last thing I said?
Yeah. How do I see the competition playing out?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be a good competition. I think Trey Lance has a much higher ceiling than Brock Purdy does. Can he get there? Can he get there in time to beat him out in a competition? That's a huge question mark. The one thing I'll say about Trey Lance is we haven't seen him with Christian McCaffrey yet, and we've seen only very little Trey Lance with George Kittle. So whatever you think Trey Lance's floor is, or people think Trey Lance's floor is from what we've seen, I think that floor is going to be a lot higher with the full complement of weapons that we have now. So therefore, I think it's a lot closer already than people think. And I think that Trey Lance will improve steadily, as we've seen him do already since he's been a 49er. I do think eventually he will end up as our starter, but it may not be to start the 2023 season, I guess is what I would say. I mean, I think Brock Purdy's shown a lot, and he has a lot of poise. Trey Lance needs to learn some of that from Brock. He needs to learn that pocket presence, to be a little more fluid, not so rigid. Maybe make some better decisions.
Yeah, I think that's a very objective take to have, and I'm totally with you. In what Tech 49er says here in the comments, Trey has to win in camp or he will be considered a bust. What's sad is that a lot of people are already calling him a bust, and I don't think that's fair at all. Like I said, it's just been a situation where there have been quote unquote better, and what you consider better, that's subjective, but better options with more experience. I think that's what it all boils down to, because when it comes to leading a team that is playoff ready, that expects playoffs, you have to have someone who is going to be able to take you there. And for Trey Lance, we don't know that. We don't know that. We know that he has the higher ceiling based on his his athleticism, being able to make things happen with his legs. Brock Purdy has shown that as well. So I think that's some of the challenge that'll have next season going up against that. He's now recovering from an injury, so he's going to spend much of the off season rehabbing rather than working on mechanics, working on becoming a better quarterback. That's just the facts. And so that's the unfortunate thing with Trey Lance. He's not really going to get a fair shot, unfortunately. I don't know. I don't know what happens. Yeah, Sin said Trey needs more reps, and I agree, but will he get those reps is the question. I can't see that happening right now when you have a quarterback who can start now in Brock Purdy. It's going to be really, really tough. And I'm a fan of both quarterbacks. And so whatever happens, whatever is best for the team, that's what I'm going to go with. I don't have any agenda. I don't have any narrative on any quarterback that I prefer. I'm a fan of the 49ers. And so whatever quarterback is the best option to get the 49ers to where they need to go, that's the quarterback I'm going to rally behind, And Tech 49er here says he's 9. It's just a scenario his career arc has taken so far. Yeah, it's unfortunate for Lance, but, I still have faith in him. And like you said, Ted, I think, maybe not 2023 season. And I don't want to count him out already, right? There's been no competition yet. It's unfair to even say that we don't think he's going to make it. But I think it's a long shot, just all things considered. So I still think there's an opportunity down the line. Who knows? 49ers quarterbacks get hurt a lot. If Trey Lance is the backup next season and Brock Purdy is a starter, let's just say, and he gets hurt, Trey Lance can come in and take that job from him. We just don't know what's going to happen. But I do know that Trey Lance is going to get his opportunity at some point down the line. The 49ers owe him that much. They invested that much, he has to get that opportunity. So that's how I feel about that. I think it's too early also to have the conversation, just because anything can happen, in the playoffs, and we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see.
No, that all makes sense. I mean, yeah, it's going to be tough for Trey to do this off season, but it's possible. I'm not sure I would bet on it right now. The last thing you want to do is say he's a bust,
Yeah,
trade him
exactly.
away for peanuts because you won't get much for him right now, and then go watch him explode on another team, hit that ceiling, and end up a much better quarterback than Brock Purdy could ever be, just because he's so much taller and such a bigger arm. Those are the two things that Brock Purdy lacks a little bit, is arm strength and height. Uh,
And,
Otherwise, Brock's got everything on Trey right now, in my
and I
opinion.
also want to say, and because a lot of people are going to say this throughout the offseason, throughout camp, they're going to say the 49ers need to trade Trey Lance. Why do they need to trade Trey Lance? They're not going to. Thank God you're not the GM for saying something like that, because that's just ridiculous to even suggest. He's on a rookie contract. They gave up a lot for him. They're not going to get any of that back. Not half as much at least. So it wouldn't make any sense. The 49ers first have to see what they have. They haven't even seen what they have in Trey Lance yet to give up on him already. They're not going to do it. So the whole trade Trey Lance thing is absolutely ridiculous to me, but it's something we're going to see a lot of from fans throughout the offseason. So I'm just getting that off my chest now. But let's talk about this upcoming game. The 49ers are playing the Seattle Seahawks on Saturday. Ted, did you have any preference as to who they would play against in this game? I mean, they had the option of Seahawks, Packers, or Lions. I would say the Seahawks look like the easiest of the three teams, but of course, in the playoffs, you can never be too sure.
Yeah, I thought the Seahawks might be the easiest, or maybe the Lions. I definitely felt like the Green Bay Packers would be the toughest of the three. However, once it was Green Bay playing the Lions on Sunday night, I was rooting for the Packers, just simply because I hate to be like the glass is half empty type of person, but and I don't think we'll lose to the Seahawks. But it's a playoff game. They're a divisional rival. We know how tough it is to win three in a row against any
Yeah.
team in any season, as we saw with the Rams last season. And I just don't want to feel that way again. Like, hey, we swept this team and then lost to them in the playoffs. That would be the absolute worst. So we just have to win this game. And I do think we will. I mean, we're favored by 10 points right now, or at least the last time I saw, where the spread was 10. I think
Mhm.
that might be a little high, just given that they're a divisional rival and they know us so well. But I do think we should win by like maybe 5 to 7 points. I think is more realistic, and I think it'll be a good game. I think there were a few things that happened when we were up in Seattle that could have gone differently, where it could have been a much closer game. And even towards the end, it was they got within 8 points towards the end anyway. But the Quandre Diggs dropped interception would have changed things a lot. And obviously the big Dre Greenlaw forced fumble on Travis Homer. If we hadn't gotten that, could have been a much different game with either of those two plays going the other direction. I'm not going to count them out. They do have a good offense. Geno Smith has been playing well this season. They've obviously got DK Metcalf, who is a monster. Tyler Lockett is really good possession slot receiver. I think even Marquise Goodwin's been playing pretty well for them. And they have three good tight ends that can all catch and block. And then obviously Kenneth Walker, their running back, has had a hell of a season, their rookie running back. So, yeah, I mean, I like I said, I think they're the easiest matchup of the three, at least on paper. But I just can't imagine if we lost them. And I will be there on Saturday at Levi's in the rain to
Nice.
root us on. So hopefully that'll help.
Yes, it is going to rain. Or at least right now, there's some rain in the forecast. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a lot of rain, but, as we know, rain could play a role in such football games as well. And that could be an equalizer that could neutralize what the 49ers are able to do. So it could even the playing field. But I'm with you that you can never be too sure. I don't know if I agree that it will be that tight of a game, but anything can happen. I'm totally understanding of that. I mean, and given the fact that this will be the third time that they're facing each other, I know that the feeling of losing to the Rams in the NFC Championship game last season, that's still in the back of the 49ers minds, I have to imagine. So I don't think they're going to look past the Seahawks at all for that reason. And Kyle Shanahan had a great point. He said, um, they're only focused on beating the Seahawks Saturday. They're not thinking about having to beat them 3 times. They just have to beat them on Saturday. That's the only thing that they should be thinking about. What happened in the last 2 games don't matter really. And because the Seahawks they have nothing to lose really. I mean, it was a big deal that they even made the playoffs to begin with. I don't think a lot of people pegged them to be a playoff team, at least towards the end of the season, right? So, they're just happy to be there. And I think they're going to pull out all the stops against the 49ers. Pete Carroll, I think, is going to have some plays up his sleeve, that some tricks that he hasn't shown before, and try to get some scores that way, because in my mind that really may be the only way that they score more points against this 49ers defense. In the 2 games in the regular season, they only managed to score 1 touchdown. Now, again, what happened in the regular season doesn't really matter much now, but I think it just goes to show that the 49ers defense seemed to have the Seahawks offense figured out. And let's just assume the Seahawks do take care of the football this time. It could be a slightly different game. So I'm with you there. In terms of teams that have played 3 games against the same opponent in the same season, they're 14-9 in the third meeting. And the home team seems to have a bit of an advantage. The last 18 times that a team has tried to beat a team 3 times in the same season, the home team has gone 12-6. So the fact that this game is going to be at Levi's Stadium, I think bodes well for the 49ers and, gives them, an opportunity to, take control of the game. I know that home crowd is going to be electric. Saloon font in the end zones, red end zones. The energy is going to be absolutely wild. Hey, make sure you guys like this video if you have not yet. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. As a quick reminder, we're doing daily episodes throughout the 49ers playoffs. So I appreciate all of you guys being in here and, commenting. Appreciate all that. Ted, what do you have going on this week? I know you said you have like 6 lives today. I mean, you're busy as well. Tell us about it.
Yeah. I'm going to have to run to my parents' house after this, where they actually still have power. And so I'll probably have a virtual background for quite a few of these shows today, unfortunately, instead of my new studio setup that I'm so happy about. But I've got Jay in the Bay here this morning, 10 or 10:30. Larry Kruger at noon, Bash and 49er Minded at 2:30, Young Heavy from Spaces fame at 4 p.m., and Raj RSF 49ers at 6:30 tonight. And then, quite a few more shows tomorrow. Thursday's a little light right now, but even Friday's starting to book up as well too. So I definitely got busy with it this week, and I don't know what I was thinking with 6 shows in one day, but we'll see if I can manage to survive it.
Yeah, don't get burnt out on us now. But that's awesome. I love that for you. You getting all that content out. Got to take advantage of the 49ers being in the playoffs, As for me, this is my only episode of the day. I have my preview episode tomorrow on Wednesday. That will be a solo episode. I'll be previewing either the offense or defense. Haven't decided yet, but on Friday I'll have my other preview episode for the game. So make sure you guys tune into that. And make sure you guys like this video. Make sure you guys subscribe. If you guys haven't seen yet, I posted an Elijah Mitchell all 22. He played 10 snaps on Sunday against the Cardinals, but look, he scored 2 touchdowns in those 10 snaps. So I compiled an all 22 video of all his 10 snaps in that game. So make sure you check that out on the channel. Someone also requested Tashawn Gibson all 22 from the Cardinals game. So I'm going to get that out as well. He had 2 interceptions in that game. So that should be some good video clips that I could get from Gibson. So I'll post that as soon as I can. But I appreciate you guys being on today and chatting with us. Ty asks, what time tomorrow, Steph? I don't have a set time yet, but I usually try to do those around 4 p.m. Pacific, so 5 Mountain Time. And yeah, so make sure you guys tune in. But as always, you guys can check out the replays. And I appreciate it, Ty, for all the support. Appreciate everyone. All right. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. I hope it's a good one. Don't argue with any 49er fans. This is a joyous time for all of us. Have a good rest of your week and Tuesday. Peace.
Peace. Thank you.